back.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? I got this mic. It's great to be back to this audience. This is one of the best audiences in Arizona. We just moved down to Arizona from Utah. We were up in Utah and not northern, had too much snow up there. We were in St. George, Utah. And no, I'm not, but that's golf territory up there in St. George. Anyway, my wife and I travel together and visit user groups. We've presented over the years to hundreds and thousands of user groups, literally. Linda, if you want to wave, there's my wife, Linda. She's there. She's going to be passing out a handout. It also describes our products that we're going to talk about, but the main topic is really backing up and what's the best way to do a backup. And so we'd like to educate you a little to begin with. We'll demonstrate our products because we think they're the best on the market, and we'll let you see if they really hold up to the speed. Anyway, that's sort of our agenda. We have presented to this group face-to-face, I don't know, 20 times, perhaps, over the years. I worked for a company called IBM. Some of you remember IBM? They're still around, they tell me. They send me my retirement check every month, so that's the good part. But when IBM got into the PC market, they realized that the PC market was not typical mainframe computers that they sold for years to businesses. And so they decided they better have a user group component to the IBM team. And they brought me in from California. I was there supporting mainframe computers, and had at the time bought a little Apple II computer. And in fact, I was president of an Apple user group in Cupertino, California. That's where headquarters of Apple is. And I think our group was the first to get a demonstration of the Apple III computer. But realizing I had experience in the user group area, they hired me to, or they brought me to Florida to manage their user group program. And so in 1981, just a few months after IBM started selling their PC, I moved the family to Florida, and we went around and started visiting and talking to user groups, and that's been the most exciting part of my career, is being able to meet all of you folks. It was great to be back and see a lot of old friends, a lot of good friends from the past. I see familiar faces in the audience here. So thank you for coming out and visiting with us again. Now, our topic is picking the best backup approach. And one of the problems that we have today with computer systems is they're connected to the internet. And the internet has a lot of bad actors out on the internet trying to break into your computer. And so there are software tools that are set up to stop viruses and spyware, spam, ransomware, identity theft. But the very best protection against these bad actors on the internet is having a good backup. It's far better than having any or all of these others. If you've got a good backup, you're the safest, most protected that you can be with the internet. Now, here's an ad from, it's been about a year, maybe a little more. PCmatic, very good malware, anti-malware utility. But he says there, PCmatic is all you'll ever need. I disagree with that. Because even PCmatic is going to fail and let through some bad things onto your computer. In fact, most software, antivirus, spyware, ransomware software, is only 70 to 90% effective. That means 10 to 30% of the time, that bad stuff's going to get through to your computer, even though you've got it supposedly protected. And so that's the big concern. It's only that effective, and the anti-malware software cannot fix the problems that they create. And so you're going to need a good backup that you run on a regular basis to put your computer back together again from the damage of one of these bad actors on the internet. And not only that, everyone needs to back up their computers on a regular basis. Otherwise, you don't have that protection, and you're susceptible to those problems. Now, the biggest problem we have with backup is there's too many different types of backups. We've got file backups, clone backups, online backups, image backups. Those are the four most common types. And then you got the ad hoc backups. This is copying all your pictures onto a CD, and that becomes your backup for all your digital photographs. Or other ways people invent to back up their computers. So we're going to go down through those four. I'm going to try to give you an idea of how they work, show you the advantages and disadvantages of each one, and hopefully at least one of those four is going to turn out to be a very good backup system. It's not all you'll ever need. It's going to be truly everything you need. Okay, start out with the first one, file backup approach. When the IBM XT was the first IBM PC with a hard drive. Any idea how big that hard drive was?
5 megabytes. ST225.
Well, it was 10 megabytes. A little bigger than what you said. There may have been some other ones on the market. But 225, or excuse me, 10 megabytes. That's not even a gigabyte. On these little floppies today, you can put what, 1.44 or 2.7 gigabytes? And this only had 10 megabytes. Well, the file backup utility works this way. The program reads all the files on your hard drive and makes a list of them on your computer. And then you go down and check off those files that you want to back up. So it's up to the human being to pick out which are the important files and which files you are not so important. And then once that happens, once you picked out all those files and said you start the backup, it's going to find the file on your main hard drive and will copy it to another device. External hard drive, a second hard drive in your computer, perhaps a CD or DVD, anywhere that you can copy files, that will be copied. So that's the file backup approach. Now, it's only a partial backup, because even though it can back up all the files on your hard drive, you cannot restore Windows and have a working computer system again. So it didn't have the ability to rebuild Windows. All the programs that were installed under Windows couldn't be rebuilt. And so only your data files were the only ones that were really backed up that you could restore and use again. And that was a big step forward, but not the perfect solution. And if you forget to check off one of those important data files, it doesn't get backed up. So this system is really a fairly poor system today. Back in the 1980s, it was pretty good. But today, it just doesn't cut the mustard. And so we go on to the next one, which is the clone backup system. Now, believe it or not, we still have some users that believe in the clone approach. And the clone system, what you do is you take the entire contents of your main hard drive and you copy those across to another hard drive that's at least as big as your main hard drive. And so this backup clone becomes an exact duplicate of your main hard drive. So if anything should happen to the main hard drive, you tear the computer apart, get into your computer, you take out that main hard drive, and you put the backup hard drive, the clone drive, in its place. And you're up and running again. Works pretty good. And people like the simplicity of this approach. It does back up the entire hard drive, and you can get Windows working again on that system. And the simplicity of this approach is really the marvel of it, why people like it. But the trouble is people do not do the clone approach correctly. It takes exactly one main hard drive, one physical hard drive, to back up once on that computer, your main hard drive. Now, we've learned in the backup technology, you need a minimum of 3 backups. And so if you're going to use the clone approach, you need to make 3 physical hard drives as duplicates to use at any time. The way to do this is to rotate them every time you do a backup. You use the next one in line, and then the next one in line after that. And then when you get to the third one, you start over with the first one again. And so you need 3 physical hard drives, cloning them each week or whatever time period you should, to do a good clone approach. Now, a couple of the other problem with this approach is it's really sort of cumbersome to get inside the computer, take the old hard drive out, and put the clone drive in its place. How many are comfortable getting inside their computer box? Some of you are. Yeah, you're the techies in the group. The rest of us are probably a little uncomfortable. And so we will take it to Best Buy and pay the Geek Squad $50 or $100 to swap drives for us. There's got to be a better way than that. So the clone approach is good, but today it really is a fairly poor approach unless you're making 3 physical hard drive backups. Okay? Now we come to the online backup approach. This is fairly current. The online backup approach is very similar to the file backup approach we used years before. It takes all the files on your main hard drive, only now those hard drives are terabytes, and this list can get very long, and asks you to check off those files that you wish to back up. And then it will back them up, but not to another hard drive, it backs them up to a storage location on the internet. So it goes out across your internet connection and stores them on some unknown server out there. Let's hope that the person that has that server is honest and it will not take advantage of your information. But the clone approach is still a partial backup approach because in most cases the clone approach will only back up your data files. You can't back up Windows and rebuild Windows with it. ACRONIS, the company I represent, did come out about 3 years ago with a version of True Image that will back up the entire hard drive to the internet and be able to restore it back to a crashed computer and have the system back and running again. Now, some of the disadvantages of this approach is backups over the internet are extremely slow. I was part of the beta test team that tested out that new version of online backups. And I took a small portion of that main hard drive that contained all of my data files, and I backed that up to an external hard drive attached to a USB port. Took 10 minutes to back that up to that USB external hard drive. And then I took the same small portion of my main hard drive and backed it up to the internet, to a storage location on the internet. How long did that take? 10 hours. So we go from 10 minutes to 10 hours. That's the difference in speed between an external hard drive and the internet. Very, very slow. Very slow. Now that was just a portion of that drive. If I'd backed up Windows and all my application programs and everything else on the drive, it could have taken 2 or 3 days to back it all up. Now they've got tricks that they use. After the first time you back everything up, they will just back up the changed files. So after the first backup, the next few backups are really a lot faster. And instead of taking 2 or 3 days, it may be only 2 or 3 hours to back up the other stuff. Still way too slow, way too slow. And when your hard drive crashes, what have you got to do? Restore everything, right? We're back to 2 or 3 days before you can use your computer again, because it's just that slow to get everything back. So the cloud backup approach is not excellent way to go. Not only you've got to be concerned about paying rental on that storage space. I think Carbonite is one of the biggest cloud backup promoters around. And they charge something like $50 a year for storage space, $50, $60, something in that range. So I would say that this approach is okay to back up a few of your important data files, but it is not a very good approach to back up your entire main hard drive. So that takes us down to the last option we have, the image backup approach. Now this approach was put together by a company called Ghost. And maybe some of you have heard of Ghost. Ghost was bought out 10, 15 years ago by Symantec. And they still offer a backup utility that they call Ghost. But it suffers from all of the other online backup utilities. It's slow. And every year you pay for all that storage space. So Ghost is still around, but I'm sorry, Ghost is not slow on the internet. It doesn't use the internet. It uses typically another external hard drive. So you take your main hard drive, and the way Ghost works is it collects all the files on your main hard drive, compresses them down to minimum space, and then stores just the compressed files on the external hard drive. And the next time you back up, it will take that backup and compress it down, store it on another section of that main hard drive. And you may get 30 or 40 backups on that one external hard drive that's the same size as your main hard drive. So it's a lot more efficient in how it stores stuff out there. It's a two-step approach. When your main hard drive fails, Ghost will or image backups will take that compressed image and use it to rebuild that main hard drive. In other words, it unexpands, or they call that the restore step. So you got both the backup, and then if you need to recover that hard drive, you go through a restore step. And this stuff is extremely fast. Takes about 1 minute to restore 1 gigabyte of backup image space. So if your backup file is 20 gigabytes in size, it's going to take you 20 minutes to restore it. It's about what it'll take to back it up. And they use other techniques that compresses and makes that space very, very minimal, and it goes extremely fast. Well, what are the advantages? It does back up the entire hard drive just like the clone approach does, but you can store many backups on one physical hard drive, not like the clone approach. The clone approach relies on you getting inside the computer box and swapping out the drive. The restore step doesn't avoid that. You simply restore back on top of the hard drive in the computer. 90% of the time, the hard drive is fine. It's the data on the hard drive that has become corrupt and unusable. And so restoring it can be very quickly done. You can also go in and retrieve individual files. You don't have to restore the entire drive to get one missing file back. You can have, you can actually go inside and look inside that backup image and pick out one file and restore just one file. So it's a very effective way to go. The only disadvantage is you do have to go through that restore step before you have anything working again. But let me tell you folks, this is so fast, I can restore the entire hard drive in less time than a clone user can tear his computer apart, pull out the bad drive, and replace it with the clone drive and put the computer back together again. So I see this as really an advantage. Now, the clone approach, or excuse me, the backup approach, image backup approach is the best way to do backups. Something all businesses use. There's no other better way to go than the image backup approach for businesses. And individuals are now adopting this approach as well. Those that do backup, I'd say 80% of them probably do an image backup approach. So we're on the right track to getting a very good backup system working. Now, let's talk about the image backup approach, give you a little idea on how you work it, and then I'll give you a demonstration of our product. What do you back up to? Anything that will accept a normal Windows file. You back it up to CDs or DVDs or the internet. But the best way, in my experience, to back up your main hard drive is to buy an external hard drive. Now, I've got a little terabyte external hard drive I got yesterday. It's this little thing right here. It's got a terabyte on it, small enough to fit in your pocket. I don't know if you can see that. 1 terabyte, fit in your pocket, and it's $54. So they are not expensive. If you go to ACRONIS and buy 1 copy of the software to do the backups, they'll charge you $50 for that. I've got better deals for you than they. Anyway, you need to have a dedicated external hard drive just for backups. Don't use it for other stuff, but say just your backups on that drive. It doesn't have to be a huge. That's a terabyte. It's 4 times larger than the hard drive inside my laptop computer. But it was priced right, $54. I couldn't pass that up. So get it at least as big as the size of your main hard drive inside the computer. And another advantage of these drives, I can unplug it from the computer. And so between backups, it sits on the shelf unattached to any computer. The bad guys out on the internet can't get to my backup hard drive because it's not attached. And for the few minutes that I'm going to use to back it up, plug it in, do my backups, unplug it. Next week, I go back to the same routine. Okay? All right. How often should you back up? Businesses, large corporations, they back up every few minutes. And those backups are often put on a plane and shipped to their Chicago offices from Florida. You don't want to be in an area like Florida or maybe California where you've got disasters that could destroy your hard drive. So they back up frequently and they store those backups at a distance location. Small businesses, mom and pop stores, things like that, they back up all of their computers on a daily basis. And it goes pretty fast. In fact, if you've got 5, 10 computers in your office, small office, you can sit at one of those computers and back up all of the 10 automatically just from that one computer. Now, end users get probably a little less important things that we store on our hard drive. They're important to us. They're photographs, their email correspondence, financial records, our stock portfolio. Important things to us, but maybe not the value that a business would have in it. We can get by in backing up maybe once a week. Once a week. Just be careful you don't extend the backup period too long. I've presented to groups where came back a year later to present to them, and had a gentleman who came up to me and said, you know, I bought your product last year and I backed up my computer last year. And I may back it up again next year. You need to back it up on a regular basis. Because after a week or so, the data in that backup is so obsolete that it won't serve you very well. It'd be better going in and just redoing the whole computer. Okay, now there are some other tricks. I'm a partitioned user, and I'll explain that a little later in the presentation. But I back up my hard drive in parts. Back up certain portions of my hard drive on a daily basis, other portions once a week. Some parts of it only once a month, and others maybe just once a quarter. So by doing the partition backup approach, I can get done in doing my backups much faster. And I don't need to do them more frequently than that. So we'll talk about that a little later. I'll show you how I partition my hard drives, how I do my backups. Okay, we've talked about backups. What happens if your hard drive crashes? How do you get the system back together again and running? Extremely easy. When your backup computer crashes, the computer won't even boot up. So how are you going to use that computer to restore your backup? Well, here's the steps you go through. Step number one, you may have to install a new physical hard drive inside the computer. In most cases, you don't. 90% of the time, that hard drive is okay. It's just the stuff stored on it that has become corrupt. So the next step is to attach your external hard drive with your most recent backup to the computer, and then you boot from a bootable version of True Image that's on a CD or a thumb drive, and use that, puts just enough program inside this dead computer to pick up the most recent backup and rebuild your main hard drive. And in a few minutes, literally, probably less than an hour, you got your computer back up and running again. Up and running again with everything on it the way it was when you backed it up. Now, if you didn't back it up for the last 6 months, you got an old version of your computer. That's why you need to back it up frequently. You'll never restore it every week, but you need to back up every week. So that's the image backup approach. How about individual files? It's even easier. Your computer's okay, it's running, the hard drive works fine. It's just missing 1 or 2 of your files. You accidentally deleted them, or you stored it on the hard drive and now you can't find that darn file. It's hidden someplace out on that hard drive. Solution here, you attach your external hard drive with the most recent backup, and then you run Windows Explorer, and that will let you get into your external hard drive, find the missing file in your last backup, and you just copy and paste it onto your main computer's hard drive. It goes very quickly and makes it very easy to get back individual files. Now, this is done, the product I represent is a company called ACRONIS. ACRONIS has been around for 20 years. I've been with them almost that long. Their backup utility is probably the most powerful one today. It's called True Image. The latest version of it just came out, True Image 2019, in August, end of August. And this is a whole suite of programs that fit on in that product. Image backup, that's the most important type of backup. It can also do file backups or clone backups. There's some cleanup utilities and other things. There's a ransom blocker built into all the latest versions. And all of these tools are available on this one copy of True Image. Now, in the last couple of releases of the True Image product, they came out with three flavors. The basic flavor is called Standard. And the Standard flavor sells from me, from ACRONIS, it sells for $50. I offer it for $25. The next flavor is Advanced. Has everything in the Standard flavor plus some additional things. It has, this is an annual license. Again, the same price, $25. But at the end of a year, it stops working until you renew it for the next year. whereas the standard version will run as long as you want it to. You just don't get any new features with it. But with the advanced version, you've got free upgrades to all the new features that are announced and released after the initial version. Gives you access to the internet cloud. The standard version won't let you get to the cloud. And this comes with 250 gigabytes of free space. You can add more for an additional fee. And that's the, no, I skipped by one. It also backs up Facebook. How many people invest a lot of time in Facebook, spend time? Some of us do. My wife's an avid Facebook fan. But anyway, if you ever lost Facebook, you'd lose all those contacts and everything else in Facebook that you've stored. Facebook will be backed up by this product, the advanced product. Also adds telephone technical support. The other standard version has email and chat technical support. This has email and chat plus telephone. And then we have the top of the line, the premium version, has everything of the other two versions. It's also a licensed annual license product. This one sells from ACRONIS for $100 per license. We sell it for $50, half price. This comes with a whole terabyte of online storage included in that price. You get premium technical support within 24 hours. The other technical supports from ACRONIS is within 3 days. Okay, so this is a third of the normal response time. And a couple of extra features: BitBlocker, very reliable new way to store files. BitBlocker is the future of computer and file storage. It's much more reliable. Okay, those are our three versions. I'm running on my laptop, the premium version, this one. But they all look the same. So if you've seen one, you've seen them all. It's under the covers that you get some of the newer features. Let's take a look at this point, show you this product, how well it works, and then I'll open it up to the audience for some questions. All right? Okay. There's the main screen for all of the ACRONIS products. Down the left margin here, or left side of the screen, are all of the main divisions of True Image. The backup section, the archive section, synchronization section, tools. It has a whole bunch of tools that it comes with. Got all of those that you can add. You can use in this product. Active protection is where ransomware is protected. This is 169 unusual internet accesses occurred since I had this installed, which was in August. 169 occurrences, 11 of them are really very suspect. And it blocked all 11 of them, and it put those on a monitoring status. Ransomware is the worst thing that could hit you from the bad guys on the internet today. And so it's something to watch out for. Your account section tells me that I've got the premium version and that I am up to date with this release. I can even show my serial numbers, or change serial numbers if I were to buy a new version. This one doesn't show the serial number for security reasons. And then there are some settings, and of course your help button. Let's go back up to backup. That's the one you want to see anyway. I back up my computer in 4 different sections. I do a full backup once a quarter, every 3 months. That backs up everything on the hard drive. Hidden partitions, it backs up those extra partitions that you never use. Everything on the hard drive gets backed up on the full backup. The programs are my C drive. That's where I keep all of my programs for Windows and programs for applications on the C drive. Everything else I take off of the C drive and put them either in a photo partition or a data partition. And these are just sections of the main hard drive. Now the data partition section, I backed up for the first time yesterday. But let's open that location. And this is the backup on the external hard drive. I've only got 3 backup files. The first one's a full backup. The next 2 are incremental backups. You can see the full backup of my C partition, or my data partition, is 5 gigabytes in size. The others are incremental backups, and they're only 600 kilobytes. That's not even a megabyte in size. They're very small, but they occurred just minutes after I did the first one. So almost everything had been backed up with this first one. If I were to restore this backup, I would restore listing the most recent backup. And that would start with the full backup, then add to it the second backup and the third backup. So when I got done restoring all 3, this happens automatically. Everything that was changed on that computer will be back in place. Okay? All right, let's go back to True Image. To create a backup image is real simple. I click on the Add a Backup, and then it will create a new backup for me, a new line up here. I can give it whatever name I want, and then I select my source. What do I want to back up? What portion of my hard drive? If I click on this, I can back up individual partitions or individual files. Here are all the partitions on that main hard drive inside the computer. I only want to back up, let's say, my data partition. So I select just that one, and then say OK. And now, where do I want to store it? I select a destination, browse to that destination. Here's my PC. There are all my partitions. There's my backup hard drive, external hard drive. Click on that. And under backup, I can store it in any one of these areas. Or I can create a whole new folder to back up to. And that, once I've done that and selected OK, now I can pick options for this backup.
How often do I want to back it up? Do I want to do it automatically? Every daily or weekly, monthly? Whenever a certain event? What time of the day I want to automatically back it up? Please set up your backups to back up automatically. Because the weak point in the link of backups is you. You and I will forget to do our backups, whereas the computer won't. So set her up to do automatic backups. And then you can take other links. What type of backups do you want to do? I recommend incremental backups. And then some advanced settings. In here you can select the speed options, performance, and I set this at high so that it runs faster. Because I do my backups in the middle of the night when I'm not competing with a backup. If I were going to do it during the day while I was working on my computer, I'd leave it at low. And then it'd back up in the background whenever nothing else was going on. Just slows down the backup. Anyway, let's go in and do an actual backup. Select, oh, I don't want that. Don't want to save that backup. There's my real data backup. I can select backup now. It will still do it automatically whenever it's scheduled. Let's see how fast it's backing up. I just clicked on backup now. It takes about a minute to start the backup. Well, it's already starting, but it's calculating how much time this backup is going to take. Remember, this is my data partition. It's a small portion of my main hard drive. Still calculating the time. To get moving very quickly, it takes about a minute or so. So we're waiting on this. Back up now. Oop, there it went. It's done. Less than a minute left. And blink, it's done. And so if we go back to the backup location, instead of 3 backups, it's got 4. Here's the one we just recently did. So you can see how fast this technology is. And it's giving you a full backup similar to the clone approach. All right. At this point, we are ready to any questions on the backup process or our products? Yes, sir.
How does this compare with the backup that comes built into Windows 10?
Windows 10 has a fairly trivial backup system. It does full backups only. Doesn't do incremental or differential, which are additional ones that are much better. You can't restore individual files. You've got to restore the entire hard drive and then pick out the 1 or 2 files, but that's going to destroy some recent files. So it's sort of like Note in Windows. How does that compare to Microsoft Word or Office? Note and Office are both text editors, but one's extremely powerful and the other is a trivial one. So the one you get with Windows is a fairly trivial backup. Yes, sir.
The
Mhm. Synchronization allows you to define one or more individuals that you want to be in a sync group. And each of these individuals would set up a folder on their computers. Now, they don't have to be together in the same room or the same house. You could have kids living in Seattle and another one in Florida, and then you're here, and they each run True Image. They each have a folder on their computers. Now, if you want to synchronize, all those folders will have the same files in them. And you get some pictures of your grandkids. That member of the family simply puts a copy of that picture in that folder, and within a few minutes it shows up in the folders of the other people in that sync group.
That just went through the air. You have that, now I know, Andrew's cloud too.
Yeah.
It's not intermediately stored,
Well, it gets stored on a temporary basis and then distributed to the other
is it deleted
folders.
after it's distributed?
Pardon?
Is it deleted after it's distributed?
Oh, after it's distributed, yes, I think from the temporary storage, it's temporary storage. But it's not deleted from the individual folders.
And I can do that on my own network too.
Yeah, yeah. You just set up the different computers on that network in a sync group, and then then they can have a folder that is their sync point for all the files. Neat little technology. Came out about 3 years ago.
I asked about it around that, and they required the cloud to sync.
They required what?
The cloud.
Oh, the cloud? Earlier versions did. But they can do it without the cloud, as long as you got a computer running True Image on it. Yes, sir?
Can you back up more than one computer to the same external hard drive?
Absolutely.
Can you repeat the question?
Can you back up more than one computer to the same external hard drive? The only problem you have is disconnecting it from one computer and moving it to the other. A little bit of busy work. But yeah, it works fine. Works fine anyway. Yes?
Once you get the product, do you build that CD that you can boot off if the disk is dead? Or is that, you get that with this product?
It comes with the product. Remember I showed you a section called Tools? The little utility in there that will burn that CD that you can boot from.
So if the disk is dead, you put that in and connect your backup and you're up and running.
Right, right. It's a standalone version of True Image. Comes up and lets you rebuild your main hard drive in a matter of minutes. Yes, sir.
My question is, Windows doesn't allow you to copy the operating system. So if my hard disk crashes and I throw a new one in, and I'm backed up, I could just copy over to it?
Yes. Now, Windows does allow you to, this is a backup utility. In other words, you're creating a copy of Windows operating system, but you restore it back to the same computer. And so the licensing agreement is still intact.
Oh, I see.
But if you make a copy with the backup of Windows and then try to restore it to another computer, it won't work. There's some tricks to doing that. You have to call up Microsoft and tell them, look, your first computer died, you bought a new one, you want to put your Windows on that new computer. So, yes, ma'am.
Well, partitioning, I don't understand, is that done on your computer or on your external hard drive? How do you set that up?
That's our next topic, and we're gonna get there in just 1 second. Partitioning, and that's our last short topic. We'll cover that in just a bit. Yes, way at the back.
Question,
Okay, if one person deletes a file, then the sync will make sure that that file gets deleted from the other computer. Yeah, so if you see a file, picture of a grandson or granddaughter that you want to keep, make a copy of it out of the sync file onto your computer. It won't get touched. It's only the files in the sync folder that get touched. Good point. Yes, sir.
If your computer crashes and you have one of these image backups and you put a new hard disk in your computer, does it have to be the same size or can it be any size?
It can be any size as long as it's at least as big as the old one was. Because it will try to use up all the space that was defined on the old one. So, very good point. Did you have another question?
Yes. I'm wondering how this ACRONIS program compares to Good Sync, if you're familiar with it. To me, they seem fairly similar. That's what I use.
There, what's the name of the product? Good Sync?
Good Sync.
Okay, well, I'm not familiar with Good Sync, but it would maybe be similar to the synchronization of our sync feature, but doesn't possibly have all the features of our backup. So, and then there's the archive feature, and there's all the cleanup utilities that come with it. And then there's, the list goes on. It's a very powerful product. Was there, yes, sir?
If somebody walks off with your backup, is there any security on that they can't get into your files?
Yeah, you can good question. Any security on your backup file, my external hard drive? Yeah, you can encrypt it when you do your backup, so that unless they have the encryption key, they can't get into that backup folder. So I also recommend that people occasionally back up their backup, not the files on it, but simply make a copy of that backup hard drive onto another external hard drive. So now you've got two backup hard drives. And that gives you a little redundancy so that you're better protected. Good point. Yes, sir.
When you have multiple hard drives in your computer, do they have to be backed up individually?
No, you can set up a backup task that will back up one and then back up the next one and the next one, and when you're done, all of them are backed up. File, yeah. But when you're doing the restore, you may only need to restore one of the hard drives. And so you would get the choice, you've got 3 backups on this one file. Which of the 3 do you want to restore? And you can take 1, 2, or all 3 of them. So a lot of flexibility in what you do here. Yes, sir.
I'm an end user, and much of this is somewhat new to me. And my question is, I have Windows applications, and I have many photographic files on my current system. And I need to transition into a safe mode, which you described. But I also have a newbie here on the smartphone where I have about 500 photos. I'm going to need to know the process of, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, transfer them to the computer and then allowing the computer to do its thing to save them. Is that the right direction?
Absolutely.
Now, can this process be accomplished by transferring what's on here, emails and what have you, directly to the backup device?
Yes, I didn't mention that. I'm glad you brought it up. But one license of True Image can be installed on one PC. But that one PC can also back up 2, 3, 4 smart devices, such as your smartphone or your newbie or whatever. So you can back up all of them. And there's a application on the internet you can download that's called ACRONIS Backup. And it will do it back it up directly to the external hard drive. Okay, good point. Yes, ma'am.
Can you mix Windows and Apple products?
No, we have a version of True Image that will run on Mac products, and another version of the product that will run on PC products, but not together. You can get, we can send you a serial number, and you can use it to download and install either the Mac version or download and install either the PC version. But that license only on one computer, whether it's a Mac or a PC. Yes, sir.
Following up on his question, does it make any difference if it's an Android or iPhone? And I can get the software that'll back up my phone to the computer, is that
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
And that's on the standard version.
Yep, it's on all three of the versions.
Now, you said I have to go to the internet to get an app to do that, or is it on the software itself?
Well, it's in the App Store, on the Android version, and on the Apple version.
Okay,
It's,
so once I put True ACRONIS on, I still have to go get that app?
yeah, it's free.
Okay.
You just download it, and then it will.
What's it called?
I think it's called Acronis Backup.
Cronus?
Start with the word Acronis, and that'll probably get you there. Yes, sir. We're getting a little long. I don't. You guys are asking great questions, but I've got just a little bit to.
So if I set up for automatic backup at midnight, but I have unplugged my external hard drive, as you advised, is it gonna tell me that I've done something foolish or remind me in the morning, or what will happen?
Yeah, when you plug it on, plug it in the morning,
It'll start.
it'll start. And it'll even delay it a little while, because first thing in the morning, I want to check my emails and stock prices and whatever. And so I could say, start, but wait an hour before you start. And then it'll do the backup. Let's go on to the last section. It'll take about 10 minutes and we'll be done. Okay? You've been very patient here. We've gone a little over in our time. In fact, organizing your hard drives. We've got a second tool, it's called Disk Director. And it is used to organize your hard drive. Now, we're going to talk in this section about partitions. What are partitions? Why you would partition your hard drive. And then I'll share with you how I partition mine. And so we'll go through this very quickly. What's a partition? It's nothing more than a section of your main hard drive that you have formatted with a file system, a drive letter is assigned to it, and you can have one or more partitions on each hard drive. You can't store files on a hard drive without a partition. Okay. By the way, this is a PC-only product, doesn't run on the Mac. But what about your C drive? Is that a partition or is that a physical hard drive? It's a partition. Yeah. And so even though we call it the C drive, it really is the C partition on drive 1 of your computer. All computer hard drives on PCs have at least a C partition on it, so everyone has a partition, right? At least one partition. But why would you want more than one? Well, that one partition could be very risky. And the C partition on your computer is an extremely risky partition. Windows is stored on the C partition. And Windows gets corrupted and crashes the entire hard drive. That causes partitions, the C partition, to crash. Viruses also have to be attached to a program of some sort. And so those viruses, those programs are on the C drive. And so, in effect, that C drive is a risky place to store your important data files,
your photographs, anything of importance to you, other than programs and Windows. Get it off the C drive, and you need a partitioning utility to do that. Next thing, it's a better way to organize a hard drive. You buy a new computer today, what size hard drive does it come with? A terabyte, maybe 2. A terabyte's a lot of space. It would be better organized if I would cut up that hard drive into 3 or 4 partitions. Then I could put certain files in one partition, other files in other partitions, and have things organized. It's like buying a file cabinet. How many people have an extremely large file cabinet that has 1 drawer? Doesn't make much sense. You want a lot of storage space in the file cabinet, you got one of those 4-drawer file cabinets, or 2 of them. So the extra drawers are like partitions on your hard drive. They're extra divisions, extra ways to organize the files in that, files and folders in that hard drive. And the third thing gives you some backup flexibility. Gives you ways to back up. I call it my partitioning backup approach. Here's how I organize my hard drives. All of them. Laptops, desktops, my wife's computer. I still have the C partition, but I've taken everything out of that except Windows and my application programs. All the data files, all of my photographs, everything else is pulled out of that partition. Again, that C partition is very risky, so I don't want to trust a lot of things to it. Then I have a data partition. My email folders, my favorite lists, databases, financial records, all of the important data files go in this partition. And finally, I must have several thousand digital photographs and video clips. They go in my photo partition. And so I've got those all stored in a 3rd partition. And that way I have 3 different partitions I can back up. Now, if I were into genealogy, I may have, instead of a photo partition, I may have a genealogy partition and keep all of my genealogical records in there. So you can organize your hard drive any way you want, just with the ability to create partitions. So my data partitions, those files change every day, so I back it up every day. My photo partition, I'll work on photographs maybe once a week, so I back it up once a week. My C partition, where all my programs are, they don't change that often. And so I don't need to back them up but once a month. And then the full hard drive with all the hidden partitions on it, back that up once a quarter. And that way, if anything happens to that hard drive, I would restore the full hard drive and then start restoring individual partitions on that hard drive until I get the very latest of all of them. The product that does this is our Disk Director product. We're on version 12. It runs only on the PC, not on the Mac. Allows you to do a whole list of things to your hard drive. Easy to create partitions, to resize partitions. If you ever run out of space in one of your partitions on your C drive, and you'd like to add more space to it, you can easily make it bigger. And there's a whole bunch of other things on it. That's the product. I'm not going to take time to demonstrate it, but if you have any questions of our partitioning, I know this lady here had one.
So this is done through ACRONIS, correct?
Yes. And external hard drive. Any hard drives on your computer you can work with. The software runs on any of them. Any other questions?
Is there any difference, any significant difference between the new record versus? And I still use it.
Yeah. 12 has been updated several times over the last few years, but not a new release. They simply slip in the changes to the existing release. You have to download them, but they're for free on the internet. So they've got that product is about perfect the way it is. So they haven't seen the need to add a whole new replacement. Good questions. Yes, ma'am.
So you give us a nice discount, which I appreciate. When renewal time comes up, then do you pay the full price, or do we renew it in your discount?
Well, if you make a mistake and renew it through ACRONIS, you pay the full price. If you come back to me, I'll sell you the renewal fee at my original price. So,
Come back to you via email?
on my website, right at the top of the handout, it's my website. You can go there and order the product. Now, we've got a holiday special going, and let me go into that. Here's our last slide. We've got the two products. Our backup product is called True Image. ACRONIS sells it for $50 per license, and only one computer can run that. If you want it on a CD, you're going to spend $70 for the license and the CD from ACRONIS. Disk Director is the partitioning utility, $50, $70 if you want it on a CD. So the same price on both products. You need one of these for each computer, but you can get by with the trick of using one disk director on multiple computers. You have to install it on one, do your partitions, uninstall it, and then install it on another, do your partitions, uninstall it. The backup, you gotta leave it on the computer to do the backups. But this one license is all you really need. The prices that we charge are half or less. 3 versions, standard, advanced, and premium. These prices are half of what ACRONIS charges. If you buy 3 licenses from us, I'm going to give you, if you paid for $50, I'll give you 4 licenses right now because we're running a holiday special. You buy 3, we'll give you 1 free. And then you can buy 2 True Image, 1 Disk Director for $50. We'll give you an extra True Image on top. So it's 3 plus 1 for $50. And our CDs normally are $5 because we got to mail it to you. And that's what the postage and packaging costs. But if you get it today, we'll hand you the CD. We don't have to mail it to you. So you save the $5 cost of the CD, plus get the half price on most of these from ACRONIS. And again, our holiday special adds that 4th license for free. Good deals. This is the cheapest I've ever sold these products. I buy my products directly from ACRONIS. I'm an ACRONIS distributor. And so you're getting first-rate product directly from ACRONIS. In fact, yesterday, the day before, I got most of my inventory in 50 or 75 products came from ACRONIS, and they're ready for us to sell out during this special holiday special.
The backup only works on 1 computer license. Now, if I would buy that for my current computer and then 6 months from
good question. Backup works on one computer. But if I buy a new computer, I can transfer that license from my old computer to my new computer by clicking a button. And so the license stays with you, but would need to be installed on the new computer and then would no longer work on the old computer. Okay. We've got, we're at the end of our presentation. We've got a door prize that we're going to give away.